Continuing on with the Phoenix Diaries, we are going to be talking about human design profiles. I don't know if those dings are going to be getting picked up on this recording, but I hope not. Okay, so we're going to start with the 4-6. As I hinted about yesterday, 4-6 is my personal human design profile. If you do not know what I'm speaking about when I refer to profiles or human design, go check out my video from yesterday, would be day 85. I speak about profiles in depth, and it's actually well worth the listen, especially if you are wanting to deepen your understanding of the foundations of what makes a profile and why they're important and relevant. There's something that I speak about in every initial human design session because they're so potent, so important, and so helpful when we are talking about life work things, and that comes up often. So 4-6, the 4-6, funny place to start, perhaps you might think, except for because it's my profile, I'm especially interested in it. So I want to talk about some key phrasing, some key words from 2 human design books that I have. I'm going to share a little experience, and this is how I'm going to do this series. I'm going to share my experience and understanding of the profiles as I've interacted with them. And of course, for this one, it's going to be quite personal and intimate because I am a 4-6 myself. And then I'll share my journey with the other profiles as I go along through the process. So hopefully it'll be insightful and educational and enjoyable. So the 4-6, first we are working with all upper trigram numbers. And so there's 6 lines total, and the 12 profiles make up a combination of these 6 different lines in different orders. And so the 4, 5, and 6 all make up the upper trigram, whereas the 1, 2, and 3 make up the lower trigram. Lower trigram is extremely personal. It's very much connected to the mundane, and I don't mean boring, I just mean the day-to-day, the self, the relationships, the these sort of like daily things. Whereas the upper trigram is much more concerned with past life karma, divine interactions with others, being in power places and power relationships in a larger scale than the way the personal lower trigram numbers are. It'll make more sense as we go. You'll see what I mean, hopefully. So the 4 is all about the opportunist. It's friendliness. It's an abdicator. The 6 is the administrator, the optimist, the peacemaker. And we're going to look into the 4 more. So this might be helpful too if you have a 4 somewhere in your profile. Maybe you're a 1-4 or a 2-4 or a 4-1. This is going to be a general sense of the 4, and I'm going to break it down that way, and then I'm going to break down the 6. So that'll be helpful if you have a 6 somewhere in your profile. It'll apply to you just in a different way. And then I'm going to talk about the 4-6 as a kind of conjunction junction. What's your function? So first off, the 4 is the warm smile. The 4 is here to love. It's here to serve. It is a number that we associate with unconditional service and support. So the 4 really craves being a part of a network, specifically a part of a network that it can serve, and it can also serve the 4, the person with the 4 number. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Ideally, if it's not, the 4 will get drained very quickly, and we'll talk more about that. In harmony with the first line, the 4th line represents the foundation of the 2nd floor of the house. And so Ross spoke about these different numbers as floors of the house, which is kind of what I was explaining earlier with the 4 being in the upper trigram. It builds upon the security the first line creates. There's also a fragility to the line 4 in it, that it must also allow an opening for the transition into the upper trigram. So it's sort of like the bridge in a way. While line 3 is deeply involved with material resources, line 4 is deeply influential and waits for opportunities to embrace its community and externalize the foundation's gifts or discoveries of the lower trigram. An innate friendliness akin to brotherhood or sisterhood facilitates the fourth line's gift of networking. This friendliness creates the opening needed, but also makes fourth line susceptible to surprise and shock. Their sphere of influence, therefore, is typically limited to people with whom they have already established relationships. Strangers are not generally correct for them other than as casual contacts. More on that soon. Quality of life for fourth lines is in direct proportion to the quality of their network of friends and associates. Establishing their energies and correct relationships allows them to enjoy a genuine camaraderie. There is also an inflexibility, however, which creates a tendency toward people burnout for the fourth line, and they need times to retreat to nurture and rejuvenate themselves. The potential opportunities that their networks offer must bring a return on the energy investment they have put into it. Deep breath for that line, because that's so good. Or they may abdicate and find a network that does, aka peace out, I'm out of here, and I'm going to find someone who actually sees me and offers me things that are of value to me. Fourth lines who are living correctly do not create their networks. However, their correct networks are already there and they meet them through their strategy and authority. The fourth line, having a fixed quality, must transition securely from one network or relationship to another, or lose its security and true opportunities to influence. The fourth line is about the human resources of the material plane. People are the biggest decisions and investments they make in their life. That's a quote directly from Ra. People are the biggest decisions and investments they make in their life. This is so huge for the 4/6s and the 4/1s in particular, because the 4 is in the personality in those profiles. And so it's very conscious. It's literally what the personality side means. It's conscious. And so service is a consistent, constant effort. And not effort is not in a negative connotation. It's just when we are investing in people that are not returning the service or returning the favor or offering opportunities, it is one of the greatest depletions we will ever experience as people with a 4 in their design. Let me see if there's anything else in the 4 before we move to the 6, and then we'll go to the 4/6 as a whole entity. And then I will share my 4/6 experience. Let's see here. Built into your 4th line is the ability with the right opportunity to communicate your truth to the other. You are not, however, interested in being changed by others. When you feel resistance from others, you will abdicate and look for those that are receptive to what you have to share. Time spent alone is refreshing and important for you, as your interactions can result in people fatigue. Living through your strategy and authority brings you those correct relationships and ultimately allow you to influence, externalize, and model who you truly are. You are watching for relationships you can trust so that you can truly become a living example of a leader without followers. So that's a little bit getting more into the 6th line energy there with the leadership. I think the other thing I wanted to say is kindness or meanness. That is the pendulum swing of the 4. Also, benefactor or beneficiary. So the 4 line needs a lot of support, and it offers a lot of support, but it needs it as well. And so we typically will gain that through kindness, through service, through love. We give it. It's often offered very, very freely. And the only time the kindness will switch into meanness or coldness, I like to think of, it goes from warm to cold, is when there is, first off, someone trying to change you, or or someone who's sort of refusing to understand where you're coming from. And then, of course, if there is just a imbalance of the give and take, that's straight away going to freeze over the 4. So it's interesting, the 4, because it can be the most loving, warmest number, and then it can go to this ice queen that can be quite mean as well. It can go savage. Also, this, I think, is why I've never truly understood why people can be friends with their ex. I don't think you can really be as a 4-6, at least, because the 4 will love and serve and do it till the end, to the very last, finale. And then when it's done and it's over, especially if there is a trust issue, which ties into the 6, the 4 goes completely ice cold and doesn't foresee anything ever being possible again in that relationship or that dynamic, because the trust is such a key element for the 4-6. And I'll get more into that in a minute. The final thing I want to say about a 4 is it's very important that you shift and change your network when the time comes. So if you are in a network of people that are diseased or broke or complaining, or like if you look at their life and you don't want any single aspect of what it is they have, then you are in the wrong network. You are not in a network that's going to offer you things that you aspire to be. And so the old adage of you are the top 5 people you surround yourself with could not be truer for someone with a 4 in their profile. Now let's go into the 6, the administrator, optimist, peacemaker. The 6th line stands alone from the other 5 lines on the hexagram and is best described as sitting on the roof. Though sometimes perceived as disinterested, this aloof perspective provides the 6th line with a vantage point from which to look back over the other 5 lines, while also looking ahead toward the line 1 of the next hexagram. Whereas line 5 is moving toward others, line 6 eventually moves away from them in order to go through a unique 3-stage life process and emerge as a mature role model. I'll break that down in a minute. It actually breaks it down for us. Let's get into it. Stage 1, from birth to approximately 30 years old, is one of the exploring and living life through the 3rd line process of trial and error and bonds made and broken. Driven to seek a soulmate, a 6th line attribute, they generally do not until they complete stage 2 around the age 50. 6th lines are not resilient like true 3rd lines, however, and the chaotic getting bumped into process can lead to disillusionment and pessimistic view of life by their late 20s. In order to regain their optimism, they look for a way to retreat physically and or emotionally from the world. A 6th line's first Saturn return is approximately 28 years in and marks the climb up on the roof. An external discovery process shifts to a more internal one. So trial and error all the way up to age 30, and then there begins to become a shift where the process is to the inner garden, to the inner world. And so there can be a lot of chaos for a 4-6 in the first 30 years, first 28 years, give or take on this, I think, depending on your type and your authority and your conditioning and who raised you and what sort of place you are in economically and geographically. All of this plays a role in how quickly you enter and move through this stage. Stage 2, from about 30 to 50, is one of withdrawing from the chaos of the 3rd line experience in order to heal and reflect. Going up on the roof, they call it. Is a time to observe and discover what is trustworthy and really works in the world, to reevaluate life and develop the resources they will need later. Their energy may feel more aloof to others, but they are also beginning to be looked to for their wisdom. During this time of inner retreat, 6th lines generally feel the most secure as they start to settle in, choose a vacation, a mate and or raise a family. Their 3rd line discoveries are now integrated and become the foundation for the outer authority they will express as a role model. So usually this is get married, have kids, continue to cultivate the skills and gifts that you've already bumped into in the first season, And then stage 3 begins with the Chiron return, approximately 50 years of age. They are now nudged or kicked off the roof to engage fully in the world once more, this time as their authentic, optimistic, sixth-line self. This can be a time of radical shifts in their lives, and they may be particularly vulnerable if they do not know how to make decisions as their own authority. The awake role model is a living example of an aware being living a unique purpose. Hypocrisy is very difficult for a sixth line to deal with. They are very deeply trusting beings and model to us how we can too trust our own authority and live our unique life. By entering deeply into experiences when young, remaining aloof and healing through inner work in midlife, and re-engaging and flowering into the world after age 50, sixth lines bring a unique perspective and wisdom to the way life can work. Theirs is an example of the transcendent life possible as nine-centered beings. Every sixth line being carries the magic of the future. It carries the magic of what's possible for a human being, what's possible for any human being if they're fortunate enough in this life to come into contact with this knowledge and they get to experiment with it and see it for themselves. That's a quote from Ra. So if you have a 3-6 profile, 4-6, 6-2, or 6-3, this 6 information can be very helpful for you. We're going to hone in a second directly on a 4-6, but I'm going to add a few things to the 6 line. Emphasizing on the trust, really emphasizing on the trust. When the trust is broken, it is no bueno for 6 lines. So it's important that 6s give trust. It's important that they are someone who is trustworthy and keeps their word. And it's important that they are discerning and surround themselves with beings who are equally trustworthy, giving them opportunities to prove their trust, noticing when they do, noticing when they don't. Soulmate or not, this is another big one. So 6 lines are typically in relationship for the long haul. They, again, don't want to, especially a 4-6, isn't really interested in investing in something for the short term or for something that they can't see where it's headed. So 4-6s aren't really good with casual stuff. They want to go deep. They want to go far. They want their investment to pay off. They want to build. Typically speaking, I know for myself, that's definitely how I feel. There's a lot of optimism here with the 6th line, and there can be the shadow of arrogance. There can be this, again, aloofness, removed energy of I'm above it all. One day you guys will catch up. I can see how this ends, so I'm not even going to include myself because what's the point? I mean, there's a little bit of like removing of the self here, and we really see that come out in the profiles with the 6 and the personality, like a 6-2 for instance, and I'll get to that eventually. We can really see that arrogance and aloofness that sort of delays them in being the role model they're designed to be, and ironically, because oftentimes they feel like it is moving them closer to being the role model they strive to be, but the opposite is true. So I read an amazing few quotes around the 6th line, and if you have a 6th line, it's not about being relatable, it's about being aspirational. Own that influence that you naturally have in your aura. Be visible. And the final one was include yourself. If you want to be a part of something, include yourself. So it takes that bridging of the gap. Sometimes inviting yourself, you have to check your strategy and authority and make sure you're in alignment with that. But there can be a need for you to say, like, I want to be there. What does that look like? How can I help? How can I add something to this? And yeah, including yourself. And I definitely feel that, there's been times in my life where I'm like, why aren't they coming and collecting me and making me be a part of this or wanting me to be a part of it? I manifested it, or I interpreted it as not wanting to be included, or not. It was like a worthiness thing I was interpreting it as. But the irony was I was the one that was removing myself from the situation. I felt unreachable to them. And so it takes the sixth line, including oneself, to be included often. So you're not waiting around for anyone to bring you in. You bring you in. That's a little bit, that gets a little tricky when it comes to projector profiles, but it's a conversation for another day, especially because your strategy is to wait for an invitation. But okay, now let's talk about the 4-6 all together. First off, Brad Pitt, David Beckham, Robert Kennedy, Al Pacino, all 4-6s. There's another 4-6 that I always think of. I definitely always think of Brad Pitt, and you can really kind of see that, the phases of his life. It's very interesting, isn't it? And now I think he's doing some of the best acting. This might be controversial to some people, but I think he's doing some of the best acting he's done. He seems so authentic. It completely settled into himself. Although I bet it would be challenging for him to do any other role other than like Brad Pitt at this age. Be curious to see, huh? But the 4-6 all together, when we look at this profile, it's an interesting one because it's a personal destiny. So that means if a 4-6 wants to move forward, they have to take action. They have to learn the thing. They have to do better. They have to surround themselves with different people. The fate of the 4-6 is in the 4-6's hands. However, from my experience having a 4-6 profile, I have found that certain divine karmic relationships have played a significant role in my life. And without them, I can see how I wouldn't have moved forward to the next stage, which is very similar to what we see with the 5th line. And some of the other profiles that are transpersonal profiles. I think the 4-6 has a bit of transpersonalness in it. Ra did not think so and did not say that. That's my interpretation. That's how I feel having that profile. And yeah, you can take that or leave that. That's my own personal opinion. So I want to read the 4-6 like this. As a 4-6, your most potent growth comes through your relationships with other people. As you grow and expand through your connections, you will ripen into a mature embodiment of everything you've learned through your experiences. Like all 6 lines, you may try a lot of things on your journey to finding what works for you in the realms of jobs, relationships, and how you want to live. You may have perfectionist tendencies, but the reality is that you are capable of perfection. However, the point isn't to be perfect. It's to find your way to perfection, and perfection only comes from mistakes and finding out what doesn't work. Don't be too hard on yourself on the journey. Even if the end goal is perfection, the path there can be messy. As you mature, you'll become faster at ironing out the kinks and figuring out what works. All the trial and error will be worth it because over time, you'll become somebody your community looks to for inspiration on how to handle life. So the 4-6, it's important to remember that you don't need to be perfect, you need to be authentic. So meeting up with trusted friends and or family, talking over a coffee or meal, these are things that 4-6s may enjoy. I love this. Activities 4-6s may enjoy. Connecting with others online in a safe community, taking a break at a party to text a friend about something someone said or did, sharing your network, accomplishments, and creations with loved ones, supporting people in your life with their projects and challenges, overseeing and guiding the overarching vision of a group, project, or organization, meeting people through mutual friends, meditating, reflecting, practicing self-care, planning a relaxing getaway with friends or family. This is a really cutesy, fun book, A Modern Guide to Human Design by Rachel Liberman. Really nice. I do want to speak about the burnout piece. So the 4-6 can very easily get burnt out. As it mentioned with the 4 is always connecting, always serving, loving, sharing. The 6 is in the body, it's in the unconscious side, and it really recharges through that sitting on the roof time, which translates as aloneness. It translates as like the mountain, getting a higher point of view, getting a perspective. So that means kind of removing yourself from the valley, from the marketplace, and coming up onto the mountain and saying, okay, what just happened? What did we learn? What am I seeing now? What's coming forward? Which it spoke about the future seeing. So in order to tap into that, you have to remove yourself from the marketplace of the 4. So 4/6s really have to learn to balance that, and I know that is certainly true for me. I have always had to balance, and then not going too far into being on the mountain and getting stuck on the mountain, and then being like, well, they're doing their thing. I don't need to include myself. Or like I had said before, I already know where that's going to go, so I don't need to have the experience. And sometimes, often, the 4/6 can miss out on life because it's gotten so removed. So of course, with all things, it's a balance, and you'll find that theme very familiar and redundant as we move through the profiles. Balance, because a lot of the numbers are very contradicting. Not saying necessarily the 4/6 numbers are contradicting. I think they actually go really nicely together. There's a beautiful optimism, leadership, and sympathy with the 6 line. It's very important. Trust. So I know for me, in past situations when I've felt the trust is compromised, the relationship feels immediately over for me. So it's super important to express that in the forefront of relationships, and to always give it. As I said, like, modeling it is a big thing for the role model for the 6. Like, be what it is you would like to see in relationships. If you want better communication, be a better communicator. If you want more positive conversations, lead the way. Initiate a positive conversation or divert a conversation to a positive. Model what it is you wish to see from others more, and you may find them mirroring you because your aura naturally is emitting this perfection, this role model, this wise, objective one. I feel like there's so much more I could say about these profiles. They're so rich and they're so beautiful, and I think I don't have many. I've recently met a 4/6, and I'll be curious to see how that journey goes. It feels like a really beautiful, familiar energy, and it feels like meeting someone who is equally holds themselves to a very high standard and is seeking information and seeking to connect and serve and love. So feeling that energy reciprocated is really, really sweet, and I'm just in the beginning stages of experiencing that, so I'll have to keep you guys posted. Other than that, another 4/6 that I know was in a self-projecting projector, so it's a very different type than me. 4/6, my cousin, and we would really get along a lot when we were younger, and definitely embraced that chaotic phase. We both were in the experimental phase, but we did have a lot of friendliness and fun, and shared shenanigans. But yeah, other than that, I have some 4/6 friends that are at a distance, and we connect, and we definitely connect when we connect, but there is a lot of distance there, just physically. So yeah, I'll have a little bit more personal stories of other profiles, because I seem to attract certain ones, and I'll keep you posted as this other 4/6 situation is a little bit more intimate and new develops. And yeah, I'm sharing my 4/6 perspective from me. So it'd be interesting if you're a 4/6. Please feel free to share what resonates, what doesn't, if you have any questions, and we'll continue on with this as I go, because it'll be a lot of fun to move through all 12 profiles. I love you. See you soon.